He wanted a trophy wife. He just didn't want to pay for the upkeep. We've all seen the highlight reels, the Instagram posts, the carefully curated image of Jasmine Pineda, a woman who radiates glamour from every pore. We've seen the stunning dresses, the flawless makeup, the confident stride that screams asterisk, but behind the digital curtain, behind the perfect smile, a different story was brewing. It was a story whispered in frustrated tones. A complaint about her old. A desire for an upgrade, a constant push for perfection. And at the heart of it all, a single devastating piece of paper. A prenuptial agreement. Not just any prenup, but one with a clause. Saudi is so specific, so audacious, that it would ultimately bring a man to his financial needs. A close-up on the addendum reveals the highlighted text, the words that would come to haunt Gino Palazzolo. All costs related to cosmetic, dermatological, and aesthetic procedures. Before we dive deep into the secret legal documents and insider testimony that blew this case wide open, do us a favor if you love getting the real unfiltered story that happens when the cameras stop rolling, hit that like button, subscribe to the Tell All tapes, and ring that notification bell. We are about to expose the most calculated jaw-dropping clause in Fiancé history. And trust us, the story the network told you is only the beginning. You won't want to miss what we've uncovered. Now, let's set the stage. To understand the monumental legal explosion that just went off, we have to rewind. We have to go back to the beginning of Gino and Jasmine. From the moment they appeared on our screens, their dynamic was clear. Gino, the quiet, frugal automotive engineer from Michigan, a man who famously balked at buying Jasmine an electric toothbrush and whose greatest romantic gesture was a set of pregnancy tests. And Jasmine, the fiery, intelligent, and unapologetically high-maintenance Panamanian beauty. A woman who demanded passion, attention, and a lifestyle that matched her self-perception. Their relationship was a whirlwind of explosive arguments and passionate reconciliations, but underneath it all, a central conflict simmered: money. Gino saw it as a resource to be conserved, saved, and carefully managed. Jasmine saw it as a tool, a means to an end, and for her, the end was the maintenance and enhancement of her primary asset, herself. The topic of the prenup was a recurring storyline, a constant source of tension. We all saw the fights. We saw Jasmine's tears. Her accusations that Gino didn't trust her, that he thought she was a gold digger. We saw Gino's fumbling attempts to explain that it was just to protect his family and his retirement. On the surface, it looked like a standard, if highly dramatic, prenup negotiation. But what we now know, through sources deep inside their legal camp, is that the televised arguments were a smokescreen for a much more complex and strategic battle happening behind closed doors. This wasn't just about protecting Gino's assets in case of a divorce. This was about Jasmine securing a future for her brand. Our investigation was uncovered that the real negotiations took place not over tearful video calls, but in a series of tense multi-hour meetings between their respective legal teams. Gino was represented by a local family law attorney from his home state, a man reportedly more accustomed to simple small-town divorces. Jasmine, on the other hand, had retained high-powered international lawyer from a firm based in Miami, a specialist in celebrity contracts and brand management. A paralegal from that firm, who spoke to us on the condition of anonymity, described the atmosphere as brutally lopsided. They said Gino's guy was playing checkers while Jasmine's lawyer was playing D-chess. He was completely out of his league, and everyone in the room knew it, except maybe Gino. The sticking point was never about who got the house or a piece of his K. According to our source, Jasmine was willing to concede on almost all of the traditional assets. The real fight was over a document her team drafted, an attachment to the main prenup they titled the Lifestyle and Brand Maintenance Addendum. This was Jasmine's masterpiece. It was a meticulously detailed multi-page document that laid out in excruciating detail the financial responsibilities Gino would assume for the upkeep of her personal brand, which she argued was inextricably linked to her physical appearance. We saw a glimpse of this on the show when Jasmine famously declared, "My looks for my business." Viewers may have dismissed it as a moment of vanity, but in that legal conference room, it was her opening argument. Her lawyer presented a portfolio showcasing Jasmine's growing social media presence. He had analytics, engagement rates, and a list of potential brand partnerships. He argued that Jasmine was not just Gino's Fiancé. She was an emerging brand, an influencer whose earning potential was directly correlated with her ability to maintain a specific high-end aesthetic. To secure lucrative deals with beauty, fashion, and wellness companies, she needed to be a walking advertisement for perfection. And that perfection, he argued, came with a significant price. Tag Gino, according to our insider, was completely bewildered. He was staring at charts and graphs about Instagram engagement while his lawyer was fumbling through papers. He just wanted the fighting to stop. He wanted to marry Jasmine. Every time his lawyer would raise an objection to a clause in the addendum, Jasmine would threaten to walk, to end the engagement, to fly back to Panama for good. The emotional pressure was immense. Gino, desperate and lovesick, repeatedly told his lawyer, "Just make it happen. I don't care. Just get it signed so we can move on." It was the costliest mistake of his life. So, what exactly was in the secret addendum? We have obtained what we believe to be a leaked draft of the document, and its contents are staggering. It wasn't a vague agreement, it was a business plan. It stipulated a non-negotiable annual budget of $1 to be paid by Gino into a separate account controlled by Jasmine specifically for personal upkeep and brand maintenance. The document broke down exactly what this budget would cover. It included, but was not limited to, quarterly injections of Botox and dermal fillers, bi-monthly celebrity-grade facials, weekly professional manicures and pedicures, professional hair styling coloring, and the cost of premium hair extensions. A complete wardrobe, refresh for every season from designer brands, and a separate, uncapped fund for what it termed major aesthetic enhancements. This subclause specified that the cost of any significant cosmetic surgery such as rhinoplasty, liposuction, or breast augmentation would be covered in full by Gino, provided they were deemed brand appropriate by a professional consultant of Jasmine's, choosing it was a contract for a trophy wife written in the language of a corporate merger. Gino's lawyer reportedly warned him, saying the language was ironclad and dangerously open-ended. But Gino was beyond listening to reason. He saw the signature line as the finish line to his romantic marathon. He didn't read the fine print. He didn't grasp the long-term financial implications. He just signed. He signed away his financial future for what he believed was his romantic one. The ink was barely dry on the marriage certificate when the first test of the contract began. For the first few months, things were manageable. Gino grumbled, but paid for the nails, the hair appointments, the designer outfits. He saw them as the price of admission for having a beautiful wife. He still believed in his heart that the more extreme parts of the addendum were just talk away for Jasmine to feel secure, but not something she would ever actually enforce. He fundamentally misunderstood the woman he had married. Jasmine wasn't just a beautiful woman. She was a meticulous and determined businesswoman, and she had a legally binding contract. The first major confrontation came about 6 months into the marriage. Jasmine announced that she had scheduled a consultation with a top plastic surgeon in Miami to discuss a new breast augmentation. She explained that her current implants were outdated and not in line with the current aesthetic favored by the swimwear and lingerie brands she was trying to partner with. She presented Gino with the bill for the consultation, a cool $1 and an estimated quote for the surgery itself, $, This is where Gino drew the line, according to text messages leaked to our team. His response was one of pure disbelief. "Are you crazy? Grand? No way. You're fine. Jasmine, this is ridiculous." Jasmine's reply was cold and immediate. "It is not ridiculous, Gino. It is a business expense as outlined in our prenuptial agreement addendum, see subsection B. Please transfer the funds for the consultation by Friday." Gino refused. He laughed it off. He told her she was being dramatic. This was the moment the marriage fractured, not over infidelity or lack of love, but over a breach of contract. From that day forward, Jasmine began documenting every single refusal. She would email Gino a formal request for funds for a specific procedure or purchase, citing the exact clause in their agreement. When he inevitably refused or ignored the request, she would save his response. She paid for the procedures herself, using her own money and credit cards, and filed every single invoice, every receipt into a growing folder. She was no longer just his wife. She was a plaintiff building a case against a defendant. The list of unpaid invoices grew into a mountain of evidence: $1 for a new set of Russian hair extensions, $1 for lip fillers, for a series of laser skin resurfacing treatments, for a vampire facial. Each invoice was a paper cut, slowly bleeding Gino's contractual obligations dry. He thought by ignoring it, the problem would go away. He believed that, as her husband, he had the final say. What he failed to comprehend was that the moment he signed that prenup, he had willingly given up that authority. He was no longer just a husband, he was a business partner, and he was in default. For 2 years, this Cold War continued. On the outside, they maintained the appearance of a passionate, if volatile couple for the cameras and their social media followers. But behind the scenes, a legal time bomb was ticking. Jasmine continued to present Gino with her brand maintenance needs, and he continued to dismiss them. He had convinced himself that the beauty clause was unenforceable, a silly piece of paper he was foolish to sign, but that no court would ever take seriously. He had forgotten who had drafted the document, a legal shark who had designed it to be watertight, leaving no room for interpretation or excuses. The final straw came when a major brand deal Jasmine was negotiating fell through. According to our sources, the company, a high-end swimwear line, gave her feedback that her overall look wasn't quite aligned with their new campaign aesthetic. For Jasmine, this was a direct financial consequence of Gino's breach of contract. His refusal to fund her upgrades was now costing her tangible income. That was it. The very next day, she instructed her lawyer to file the lawsuit. The lawsuit landed on Gino's doorstep like a grenade. He was being sued by his own wife for the full year budget of per year that he had contractually agreed to but had failed to pay. The lawsuit also sought a court order to compel him to pay for the breast augmentation and to abide by all terms of the addendum for the remainder of their marriage. Gino was blindsided. He was humiliated. He immediately launched a counteroffensive, telling friends and family that Jasmine was insane, that she was trying to extort him, that this was a frivolous lawsuit that would be laughed out of court. His defense was simple and, in his mind, foolproof. He didn't know what he was signing. He would tell the judge he was under emotional duress, that he didn't read the fine print, and that he thought the whole beauty clause was just a bizarre joke. He was about to learn a very hard, very expensive lesson in contract law. Ignorance is not a defense. The stage was set for a courtroom battle that would be more dramatic than any tell-all reunion. This wasn't just a divorce proceeding. This was a landmark case on the intersection of marriage, social media, and contractual obligation. The question before the court was simple. Is a person's physical appearance a business asset that can be contractually funded by a spouse? Jasmine Pineda was about to argue that it was, and she had the receipts to prove it. The trial began on a cold Tuesday morning. The courtroom was sterile and imposing, a stark contrast to the colorful, chaotic world of Fiancé. Jasmine arrived looking every bit the part of the plaintiff. She was dressed in a razor-sharp, custom-tailored white suit, her hair perfectly styled, her makeup subtle but flawless. She looked like a CEO about to close a major deal. She was calm, composed, and confident. Gino, on the other hand, looked like a man being led to the gallows. He was slumped in his chair, his face pale, his usual hat conspicuously absent, revealing a man who felt exposed and overwhelmed. Jasmine's lawyer, the Miami legal shark, began his opening statement with a devastatingly simple premise. "Your Honor," he began, his voice going in the quiet room, "this is not a case about marital discord. It is not a case about love or emotion. This is a case about a contract, a simple, straightforward contract signed in good faith by both parties, a contract that my client, Miss Pineda, has honored, and one that the defendant, Mr. Palazzolo, has willfully and repeatedly reached." He walked the judge through the timeline from the initial negotiations to the signing of the prenup and its crucial addendum. He painted a picture not of a demanding wife, but of a savvy entrepreneur. He explained that Jasmine had been completely transparent from day one. He entered into evidence the portfolio he had shown Gino during the negotiations. The one with the social media analytics and brand partnership proposals. Jasmine Pineda's face is her fortune, the lawyer declared. Her body is her billboard. This is not vanity, Your Honor. This is commerce in the ST century. And Mr. Palazzolo knew this. He knew it, and he agreed to invest in that commerce. He signed on the dotted line. When Jasmine took the stand, she was a masterful witness. She spoke clearly. And without the fiery emotion that characterized her television persona, she was all business. Her lawyer led her through her testimony, establishing her career as an influencer. Miss Pineda said, Saida, he asked, could you explain to the court how your physical appearance relates to your ability to earn an income? Jasmine looked directly at the judge. My career is based online. I work with brands in the beauty, fashion, and lifestyle space. They pay me to promote their products to my followers. To secure these contracts, I must maintain a certain look. It has to be aspirational. People follow me because they are inspired by the lifestyle I present. That lifestyle requires a significant and constant investment in my appearance. It's the cost of doing business. It's my inventory. Her lawyer then asked about the prenup negotiations. Were you clear with Mr. Palazzolo about these financial requirements during your discussions? Completely, she said, her voice firm. I explained that my career was dependent on this. We discussed the costs in detail. We created a budget. It was all laid out in the addendum. He understood it. He agreed to it. Then came the centerpiece of their case, the evidence. Jasmine's lawyer produced a massive inch-thick binder and placed it on the court clerk's desk with a heavy thud. Your Honor, he announced. We present to the court plaintiff's exhibit a comprehensive record of all unpaid invoices, funding requests, and correspondence related to the personal upkeep and brand maintenance clause of the prenuptial agreement. He proceeded to walk the court through the binder page by agonizing page. There it was, all in black and white, the email requesting funds for Botox, followed by Gino's dismissive text message reply. The formal letter from Jasmine's lawyer about the breast augmentation consultation, followed by a print out of an email from Gino calling the request extortion. There were receipts from Miami's top dermatologists, invoices from exclusive hair salons in Beverly Hills, credit card statements detailing purchases from Gucci, Prada, and Chanel. For every single expense, there was a corresponding piece of evidence showing Gino's refusal to pay. It was a mountain of meticulously documented breach of contract. To solidify the point, Jasmine's team called an expert witness, Dr. Alana Croft, a professor of digital media and marketing at a prestigious university, and a consultant for major brands. She was there to testify that Jasmine's requests were not just reasonable but standard for an influencer of her status in the digital branding space. Dr. Croft explained her tone, academic and authoritative. An influencer's physical persona is their primary capital asset. Aesthetic maintenance procedures, like the ones listed here, are not viewed as personal luxuries, but as necessary business expenses, akin to a tech company upgrading its servers or a restaurant renovating its dining room. To stay relevant and marketable, influencers must continually invest in their look to meet the evolving demands of their audience and the brands that sponsor them. $1 annual budget for an influencer with Miss Pineda's reach and engagement is not only reasonable, it's arguably conservative. The testimony was devastating for Gino's case. It reframed Jasmine's demands from the realm of marital squabbles into the cold, hard logic of business finance. She wasn't asking for pocket money. She was asking for her contractually agreed upon operating budget. When it was time for Gino's defense, the contrast was stark. This small-town lawyer seemed flustered and unprepared for the onslaught of evidence. His entire strategy rested on a single flimsy argument. Gino didn't know what he was signing. Gino took the stand looking defeated. His lawyer lobbed him softball questions. Mr. Palazzolo, when you signed this addendum, did you understand the full financial scope of the clauses within? No, Gino mumbled. I mean, I saw the words, but I didn't think it was serious. There was a lot of fighting. I was under a lot of pressure. I just wanted to get married. I thought it was just talk, things you say to make the other person happy. I never believed a court would make me pay for lip fillers and knew. So you were under emotional duress when you signed? Yes, absolutely. I was desperate. I would have signed anything to make the fighting stop and marry her. It was a sympathetic plea, but a legally weak one. On cross-examination, Jasmine's lawyer dismantled it with surgical precision. He approached Gino holding a copy of the prenup. Mr. Palazzolo, is this your signature at the bottom of this page? Yes, Gino said. I see it. And is this your signature at the bottom of the addendum, right below the clause detailing the dollar annual budget? Yes. Were you forced to sign this? Did anyone hold a gun to your head?
No, but
You are a college-educated man, an engineer, are you not? Do you work with complex schematics and technical documents on a daily basis?
yes.
So you are capable of reading and understanding a contract. Gino's lawyer objected, but the judge overruled him. Gino sighed.
Yes.
And did you have legal representation during this entire process? An attorney you hired and paid to advise you?
Yes.
And did your attorney advise you not to sign this document? Gino hesitated. The courtroom was silent. This was the critical moment. Our insider paralegal had told us that his lawyer had in fact warned him explicitly about the beauty clause. Gino was under oath. He raised some concerns, Gino admitted, reluctantly. Jasmine's lawyer pounced. He raised concerns. So you were made aware of the potential risks of the exact financial obligations you were agreeing to by your own counsel, and you chose to sign it anyway. Is that correct? Gino stared at his hands.
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor. The closing arguments were a mere formality. Jasmine's lawyer summarized the mountain of evidence, the clear language of the contract, and the defendant's own admission that he had signed it willingly, despite his own lawyer's warnings. He concluded Mr. Palazzolo made a legally binding promise. He is now suffering from what is commonly known as signer's remorse. But buyer's remorse, Your Honor, is not a valid basis for nullifying a contract. He made his bed, and now he must quite literally pay for it. Gino's lawyer made a final, impassioned plea based on fairness and the spirit of marriage, arguing that enforcing such a clause would turn the sacred institution of marriage into a cold commercial transaction. He argued that Gino was a victim of emotional manipulation, a man who was taken advantage of at a vulnerable moment. Then there was silence as the judge reviewed the documents and his notes. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. Gino looked down, unable to watch. Jasmine sat perfectly still, her eyes fixed on the judge, her expression unreadable. This was the moment of truth, the culmination of 2 years of secret battles, a moment that would define the rest of their lives, together or apart. The judge cleared his throat, looked down from his bench directly at Gino, and began to speak. He was about to deliver a verdict that would send shockwaves through the entire day Fiancé universe, a ruling that would set a stunning new precedent for what can be bought and sold in the name of love. The cost of beauty was about to be calculated down to the very last. The judge adjusted his spectacles, his gaze unwavering as it settled upon Gino. The air in the courtroom was thick with a heavy, suffocating silence. Mr. Palazzolo, the judge's voice was not angry, but carried the weary weight of judicial authority. In the eyes of the law, a contract is a promise. It is a meeting of the minds, documented and signed, intended to be legally binding. You are an intelligent man, a professional with a successful career. The court does not accept, nor does the law provide for, a defense of willful ignorance. He paused, letting the words hang in the air. You claim you are under emotional duress. Many people are under emotional stress when they make significant life decisions, such as getting married. That does not, however, invalidate the legal documents they choose to sign. In the process, you had independent legal counsel. Your own testimony confirms that your counsel advised you of the potential risks inherent in the document you were signing. You chose to disregard that advice. The judge looked from Gino to Jasmine, who remained perfectly composed. Miss Pineda and her legal team were transparent about their intentions. They presented a case not of emotion but of business. They have provided exhaustive evidence that Miss Pineda's career as a social media influencer is her primary source of income, and that this income is directly tied to her physical appearance, or as they term it, her brand. They have also provided exhaustive evidence that you, Mr. Palazzolo, agreed to finance the maintenance of this brand as a condition of the marriage. He picked up the binder of invoices, letting it drop to his desk with a loud final thud. And they have provided a mountain of evidence that you have failed to meet your obligations under that contract for a period of 2 years. The judge looked back at Gino, his expression grim. Therefore, the court finds in favor of the plaintiff. Mr. Palazzolo, you are hereby ordered to pay Miss Pineda the full sum of $, representing the 2 years of the contractual upkeep budget you have withheld. Payment is to be made in full within days. Furthermore, the court affirms that the personal upkeep and brand maintenance addendum is a valid and enforceable component.